For the last few nights, I've been having this reoccurring nightmare. I dream that I'm laying in my bed, covers pulled up to my chin, with sweat beading on my forehead. The first few nights, this was all I saw. I'm always disembodied, looking down on myself. Out-of-body experiences aren't something I've ever had before, and it all feels surreal. The second night it happened, I was a little more aware of what was going on. There I was in bed again. My viewpoint was from the ceiling looking down, and I could see myself wide-eyed and looking around. Sweat was rolling down my temples. Fingers clutched the comforter with white knuckles. Clearly, I was afraid of something, but from my bird's eye view, I couldn't see what it would be. A look around the room showed everything to be normal. Dresser drawers were closed, guitar was in the corner, and my desk was all tidy. Even the window was closed. There was nothing out of place. Suddenly, the me in bed threw the blankets over their head, and that's when I woke up. I knew it was just a dream, but it laid heavy on my mind all day. Nothing major was happening in my life that it could be some kind of subconscious meaning, and I've never experienced any kind of past trauma. Still, dreaming of yourself in such a terrified state had me concerned for some reason. I felt like the dreams were foreshadowing something or trying to alert me. Hard to explain how I came to that conclusion. There was just a feeling in the pit of my stomach about it. I had the same dream the next night. Disembodied, floating over my bed, watching myself wrestle with an unknown terror. Sheets gripped tight in my fists, covers go over my head. Then a minute later I pull them back down and grab my phone. I can't see what I'm doing, but I can see my fingers feverishly moving. As I strain to get a closer look, hoping that whatever I'm doing will give some clue as to what is troubling me, I hear it. From under my bed, the sound comes. Thrum drum, thrum drum, thrum drum. The tapping of fingers can be heard. Strain as I might, I couldn't come down from the ceiling to see what was making the noise. Now, terror had a grip on me too as I watched myself in bed sink deeper and deeper into fear. Then, the noise stopped. Both me and myself in bed looked around to figure out what was going to happen next. A squeaking noise came from below, and at first it was hard to figure out what it could be, but it grew louder and louder. Something was dragging itself across the hardwood floor. The sound was like what I remembered as a kid, when I would trip and skid across the basketball court at school, only not as loud and longer and more drawn out. The me in bed slowly crept to the edge of the mattress and was just about to peek over when I snapped awake. There was sweat on my brow and the covers were clutched tight to my chin. A sinking feeling formed in the pit of my stomach. Sleep didn't return for the rest of the night. The rest of the day was torturous because I knew I would have the same dream tonight. I tried to fight going to sleep. I didn't want to know what would happen next or what was haunting my dreams. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay awake all night and eventually fell asleep. The same dream did occur. Everything played out like it had the night before and the night before that. The terror, the sounds, the squeaking. This time I made it to where I was about to look over the edge. From my viewpoint up above, all my attention was on myself, until out of the corner of my eye I saw it. A hand on the other side from where I was looking came from under the bed, worked its way under the cover, and to my disbelief stretched from one side of the mattress to the other like a rubber band. Silent screams burst from my mouth as I tried to warn the me in bed to no use. I watched as fingers gripped my ankle. The me in bed kicked and screamed, threw pillows, and fought as hard as I could to break free of this thing's grip. Then, in the blink of an eye, it ripped me from my safe warm covers. I could see me dig at the hardwood floor, trying desperately not to be taken under. Strips of wood peeled up as my fingers dug in so intensely that my nails tore and popped off, leaving behind crimson streaks of blood. With a jolt, I shot awake. It was just a dream. It was just a dream, I repeated to myself with fingers gripping the sheets. Beads of sweat dripped down my face and I hid under the covers. I'm sending this out from my phone now so that if anything happens to me, someone will know where to look, and if there aren't any remains, then someone will know what happened. I don't want it to take me. Maybe if I think hard enough, I can learn something from what I saw. But I fear I don't have much time. I can hear the thrum drum coming from under my bed now.
He keeps banging his head on my door. I don't really know what to make of what happened a few days ago. During a late-night gaming session, I decided to take a break and walk over to my local convenience store to grab some snacks. As I stepped outside of my apartment complex, I turned and saw something that entirely made me regret my decision. It was dark, so I couldn't really see all that well initially, but I could make out the shape of a man, repeatedly bashing his head against someone's door. At first, I didn't know whether to wave him down in case he needed help, or if I should call the cops, so I kinda just stood there and hoped that this person would see that there was a witness to whatever it is he was doing. I guess it only took him a few moments to notice me, because I could see his silhouette stop, turn, and then walk out into the lit sidewalk. I don't think I'll ever be over what I saw. The man stood naked on the street, bleeding from his grotesquely overgrown forehead. He seemed to have no arms, but his feet very closely resembled large hairy hands. He had strands of thin, oily black hair that fell over his puffy eyes, and his mouth hung agape, showing only a handful of crooked teeth. We locked eyes for a moment, and as if he could sense my weakness, he jerked forward towards me. I sprinted back inside and closed the deadbolt behind me. Just as I went to the closet to grab a bat, I heard a loud bang on my front door. I cursed and ran into my room, where I called the police. I was forced to listen to that god-awful banging for at least 7 minutes before the cops showed up. The relentless assault on my door left me whimpering, wondering what the hell I should do if he made his way inside. When they arrived, I went outside to explain the situation. The man was nowhere in sight. The police informed me that they had gotten similar complaints all week, but hadn't seen anyone matching the description I'd given them. They took note of the apparent blood on my door, and while they seemed interested in my story, I got the generic, "We'll keep an eye out," and they were on their way with that. It only took about 5 minutes of the police being gone before he started banging on my door again. When I went back into my room to get some sleep, I got a text from my next door neighbour telling me to stop making that noise, otherwise he'd be talking to the landlord. I tried to explain the situation to him, but he just told me to handle it, or he would come down and handle it for me. I struggled over my next decision. Did I really want to confront whoever or whatever was outside? Deep down, I knew I didn't. I had my bat, but I suppose the best way to describe my feeling was I didn't feel like I was confronting a person. It felt like I'd be facing an animal. There's a level of unpredictability a wooden bat doesn't protect you from. I mean, this guy has been trying to tear down a sturdy door with his skull, and he was winning. It's not like hitting him with a bat was really going to do much, right? But with the same confidence of a child trying to shoo a spider out of his room, I resolved to at least attempt to scare him away. But before I could even open my bedroom door, I heard a loud crash coming from my kitchen, and at that moment my heart sank. I didn't know how he got in, but I could see the man stumbling about in my kitchen, knocking over everything in his path, letting out something that was a cross between a wail and a grunt. Like a cockroach, he scurried back to the front door and began furiously banging his head against it again. I slapped my hand to my mouth to keep quiet, and quickly decided to hide in my bedroom closet. Bang, 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 repeatedly. He just wouldn't fucking stop. I don't know how long he would go on for, or if he'd come looking for me, but it all suddenly came to a halt when my phone started to ring. Peeking out of my closet, I could see I stupidly left it on my bed. I wanted to grab it, but the loud footsteps coming near my door kept me rooted to my spot. I could partially see the door from where I was. He slowly creaked it open with his grotesque feet and poked his abomination of a face inside. I could hear his laboured breath breathing as he sniffed the air and stared directly at my ringing phone. My heart beat fast in my chest as I prayed that he wouldn't decide to go rummaging through the closet. But as soon as my phone stopped ringing, he took one final look around my room and left. I waited a few more seconds, and I could hear the front door close behind him. I stayed in the closet for a few minutes, just to be sure he wasn't going to come back, and as soon as I felt comfortable, I sprinted out of my closet and grabbed my phone and ignored the litany of calls from my neighbour. I phoned the police. I expected to give a statement on a break-in, which I later found out happened through a busted window, but I quickly found out that something much more grave occurred when they arrived. Apparently, while on their way over, someone else had a call about finding a body. Once the police had isolated me from the scene, they informed me that it was my neighbour's body. The details were gruesome. His face had been completely bashed in, and he had multiple bite marks on his body. It also appeared as though his neck had been broken, twisted nearly 180 degrees. As far as I know, I'm not a suspect, but they did fear that the person or thing I saw might have been involved. They did a sweep of my apartment, noted the blood, and took some samples off the strewn glass. I don't know how much it means, but they suggested I find someone to stay with, at least for a little while. I'm not really sure what to even make of all this. I've never heard of anything similar to whatever the fucking thing was, and I'm wondering if maybe someone knows more than what they're saying. I'm not an expert on police procedure, but there seemed to be a level of calm throughout all of this. I guess it's why I'm not a cop, but I'd be freaking the fuck out. Some deformed person is brutally killing people. I hadn't seen anything on the news about it. Shouldn't that be all over the place? And going anywhere at night stresses me the fuck out. And I'm looking into how quickly I can get a gun. I just want all of this to be over. I swear the past couple of nights I can still hear the bang, bang, bang in the back of my mind.